I'm gonna turn these games realistic by recreating the covers. Starting off with one of my favorites, Smash Hit. So the first thing I did was add some shattered glass and also added the blue background. Next, I put a silver ball in there and then put a shadow behind it. I also added some more glass to make it look like the ball is hitting it, and this was basically finished. So this is what I ended up making. This next game is pretty popular, but I've never played it. It's called Timberman, and the cover is a lumberjack with insanely broad shoulders. So first I added a wall background that matches the same color as the original cover. I then added the red flannel and then stretched it out because, you know, his shoulders. I also made all the buttons yellow like the original app cover. Then I cut out this guy with a beard, and he technically doesn't have a neck in the original cover, so I just placed his head right here. Next, I changed the color of his hair to brown. I also made his eye color match the original cover, and finally added the beanie on the top of his head and then made it dark blue. So this is my realistic version of the cover. Now that we've done that, let's move on to the next game, which is Crossy Road. Crossy Road came out in 2014, and if you've played it, you probably know it's based off of the joke, "Why did the chicken cross the road?" First, I added a slight blue gradient and also cut out the background on this chicken. I placed our chicken where the chicken is in the original cover and then made the cutout a little more smooth. After that, I singled out the white parts of the chicken and made them more white. Next, I used the warp tool to move the chicken's body a little bit more into position. And then I added some clouds in the background because, you know, real life has clouds. So this is my realistic Crossy Road cover. Let me know what you think about that one in the comments, but let's move on to the next game, which is Clash Royale. Clash Royale is an insanely big game, and I think the cover is kind of cool, so let's make it realistic. This game released globally in 2016 and made over $1 billion in less than a year, which is crazy because it's a spin-off of Clash of Clans, but it averaged a 4.5 on the mobile app stores. So let's make this realistic. The first thing I did was make one side of the app red and then the other side blue. I also put some bricks on the background and then found two guys with beards and placed them where the cartoon guys are. I also added a lightning bolt in the middle like the original cover by using the warp tool, and then I started working on the Red King. So first I fixed the cutout and used generative AI to remove his necklace. Next I added a camera raw filter to make the image look better and changed the color of his shirt to red. I found this crown image, so I added it to the picture and then cut out some parts to make it look more like it's on his head. Next I added a shadow on his hair below the crown to make it look more real, and then changed all the diamonds to red. Finally, I added a little shadow on the background, and now let's work on the Blue King. So the first thing I have to do with this is change his hair color from orange to black. So I used the brush tool to change the hue of his hair, and after that, I changed the color of his shirt to blue. I also added another crown and made it fit his head, and also added a shadow just like the other king. I removed some extra parts of the crown that shouldn't be there, and then added a camera raw filter. Finally, I made the diamonds on the crown blue and added a shadow to the background. So this is Clash Royale, but realistic. Now, let's move on to our final game. The final game I'm gonna make realistic is Dumb Ways to Die. And this character literally has holes in their body, so this might get a little bloody. Hey, pause! Don't forget to subscribe, because this will be your house if you don't. And also because I make fun videos. And let's get this video to 1 billion likes. Easy. Let's get back to the video. Apparently, Dumb Ways to Die was an animation that was supposed to promote railway safety, but it got so popular that they developed it into an app. And then in 2021, Playside Studios acquired the Dumb Ways to Die franchise for $2.25 million. So let's make this game realistic. First, I want to make the background more realistic, so I made it the same color as the original, but then added some trees in the background to make it look foggy and kind of creepy. Next, I made an oval replicating the original character and also added some arms. I made another circle replicating the character's hat and then cut out the parts I didn't need. After that, I downloaded a wood texture and added it on top of the hat and then stretched it out to make it look a little bit more real. I also decreased the exposure on the bottom to add a shadow like the original has, and also did the same on our character. I found some antlers, so I erased the unwanted parts and made it black and white. I also made it brighter and then copied the same thing on the right and added some small shadows. I thought it would be interesting and more realistic realistic to make our character furry, so I added a furry texture and put it on the character. Next, I added some shadows and highlights to add more depth onto our character, and then had to go around the character and make the edges look more like fur, which took a very long time. But after that, I added a green overlay and put it at 66% to make the character pop a little more. I also added a little face. At this point in time, my Photoshop absolutely crashed and my dumbass didn't save the project yet, but luckily I was recording, so I just took a screenshot from that and then kept working. So I added a camera raw filter to add more saturation, texture, and clarity, and then I messed up the sidebar and had no idea how to change it back, so I spent a little time searching up on YouTube how to help. And finally, once I got it back, I added the holes into the character's body and then added some blood. After putting 3 bloody holes in its body, I added some spatter to make it look more like it's bleeding and added some motion blur to make it look like it's moving. But this didn't really make sense to me because I didn't know how it got these holes, so I downloaded a picture of a bullet and removed the background. Next, I put it in front of the character and added some motion blur going towards it. I also added some wind trails coming from the bullet, which I've never done before, so I put the flow at 15% and kind of just erased some random parts, and after I thought it looked good, I added the same motion blur from the bullet. And finally, I messed around with the blood a little bit and then finished the image. So this is Dumb Ways to Die, but realistic. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, like the video. If you didn't like it, and if you didn't like it, subscribe.